We're back Thursday, Las Vegas, Nevada. Fight Junkeez. What's up, everybody? I'm energized today. Champ shit only. Today's going to be a good day. I have an awesome guest. He's Canadian, eh? He's a former professional hockey coach who is now retired at a young age. And he now does interviews with fighters. I don't know how the two intertwine, but hockey players also punch each other in the face. So I love the energy. There's been a lot going on in the world, but not a lot of fight action in the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. So I'm going to introduce my guest today, Mr. Robert, a.k.a. the Babs, B-A-B-S, right?
Yeah, it's a hockey thing. So my buddies would call me Babs, but there's a professional coach, Mike Babcock, who's like Stanley Cup champion, used to coach the Leafs. And I'm like, when I'm trying to come up with my name, obviously that's taken, and I can't use his nickname. So I'm like, oh, I'll just be the other Babs, and it just kind of all lined up.
That works. So we got two Bobs in the house today. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, dude,
I guess you're
Vegas.
on a... Yeah, Vegas is cool. So cool that I live here now.
Yeah.
Thanks to John Orlando. What's up, man? What brings you in town?
So I'm doing some stuff with a site called Odds Jam, and I'm doing some interviews with UFC fighters and stuff, and a few betting people. And I got a good relationship with John because I used to be a producer on one of his other shows back in the day there. So I was just like, yeah, let's like get stuff going. I'm trying to like go out on my own and just be like a full-time content creator now. So I booked a 7-day trip to Vegas, and I'm just going to try and do as much as I can while I'm out here.
So you just kind of said, I'm going?
Yeah, I make my opportunities happen for me. Like, because I coached hockey at such a young age and everything like that, I just kind of had to like push forward and go for it. So it's just one of those things where like no one's going to hand anything to you. So you got to go out there and just try and crush it. And that's what we're doing.
I fully agree. Exactly why I'm in this chair right now. So no itinerary, just like I'm going to go say hello to some people, shake some hands, make some content. I think it's organic. And I think that resonates with people. I think personally for me, when somebody's like super fake, I hate that shit. If it's too superficial or someone's in a character, it works for a little while, but eventually people see through it. So
yeah, I try and keep things really authentic, or I'm just being a complete goofball. And people usually can tell the difference on socials when I'm doing that stuff. Like I'm saying some wild stuff sometimes, but like everyone knows it's satire and I'm joking around. But I see a lot of people, especially with the sports betting stuff now, that just completely lie about percentages, all that stuff, and I can't stand it, man. There's a few guys, if I see in person, I'm gonna say something.
You're gonna hockey them up, huh?
No, I'm not gonna hit anybody, but I'm gonna say, like, look, you're not winning 90% of your bets.
Did you see that John had an episode on Action Junkeez about some of that stuff?
Yeah.
He actually had one or two of the guys. I don't know anything about that world. I'm not in the position right now to be throwing money at big organizations. But yeah, that would piss me off because people work hard and they don't have a lot. Everybody's struggling in some way. So to tell some kid who like kills himself at a kitchen, making hamburgers after going to college all day, like, hey bro, I'm gonna make you rich, and then losing their money, that would piss me off too.
No man, 53% you're a professional sports bettor, straight up.
53%
of your win. Yeah, you got to win 53% of the time, and guess what? Pretty much no one does that.
You can't even get a GED in America without 70%.
Yeah, it's just. We're in a market now where, especially in Canada, it's becoming legal for sports betting, and like it's just changing. And I see just a lot of people putting bad info out there. I try and be pretty straight up with it, and like I get offers all the time to like do like ads and stuff, and I like say no to almost all of it because I go like I don't. You're pushing stuff that people aren't going to be able to launch.
You don't want to sell an NFT, bro? Tekashi 6ix9ine, right?
Dude, that stuff makes me laugh.
So. That was a big difference when you told me. I mean, we have connected online. Anybody that's connected with John, John's a strategic, very smart gentleman. So I try to like at least go the same route as him. And you and him have a good relationship. So I figured I'd connect with you as well. How the hell? What was COVID a big factor in the fact that Canada kind of shut down to where like you went from coaching and being with children, and being actively in a sport to like sitting home on lock. You guys were on lockdown to like yesterday, right?
Yeah, like it was a bit longer than other places. It didn't affect me as much because like when I was coaching hockey, I was in the States and then I bailed out because I'm like, oh, this stuff's going sideways. And my team got sold like a month after, and it was in the middle of COVID, and I got an offer to go back. I wanted to raise. They weren't giving it to me, so I said, I'm going to sit out. I just started posting videos on the internet, and I was just chilling at home. So like the lockdown and everything like that, like didn't really affect me all too much because I didn't have anything to do. Just basically played Warzone with the boys and started like kind of come up with like a different career while trying to keep my foot in hockey. I had an opportunity last September to go back. I looked at the money. It was 3 times what I got paid the year before. But I went like, I can make more money and support the people around me if I focus on something that has, you know, a lot higher ceiling, that involves less stress, less work. I was gone all the time. I was tired. So I just kind of made a choice. I'm like, yeah, like I was one of the youngest coaches in professional hockey my season, but got to pay the bills, got to take care of everybody else. So I just
move here and coach the Golden Knights and then come podcast at night, you know?
I'm so far away from that. And that's part of the thing is like I was coaching the lowest tier of professional hockey in North America, and I like accomplished something. I'm proud of it, but like people will make comments being like, oh, like what could you do next and everything like that. And like sure, like I could have spent like 25 years trying to grind my way up to the NHL, but I wouldn't be able to pay the bills very much. Like, you know, it'd be stressful. My girlfriend would never see me. I kind of had to make a choice there where I was like, sports betting is becoming legal and there's a lot of money being thrown around. So it just ended up being a situation where I'm just going to take one for the team and do what's better for everybody else.
Well, as far as I know, it fits. You're a good talker, you're charismatic, your energy's great. So I think, it's a good choice. I did it. I was with the Department of Defense and I left to go to barber school. I went to hair school for essentially like almost 2.5 years. Then I went to film school. There's a lot in between there, but creating content is something that I can do this when I'm 90.
Yep. And it's so flexible and stuff like that too. So like my schedule and stuff is better for me. And like I had like neck injuries and stuff, and I've been trying to like get my body back together, like changing my lifestyle completely. Like I found out I have a fatty liver, and I'm skinny as fuck, so that's not supposed to be the thing. So like I found out I can't drink alcohol. I had to cut out all my refined sugars. Like I really made like a significant lifestyle change because like I'm like I don't want to freaking end up dying on the side of the road just because like I'm not taking care of myself. So between COVID and like my hockey career ending and everything, like it was such a dramatic flip that like I think that's what made the transition a lot easier. Is like pretty much everything in my life at once like had to change. So it made it a bit easier to like transition into something else. But man, I always knew I could talk shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're from Canada, eh? Everybody, are you big on the Nelk Boys? I'm huge on them.
Yeah, like I watch their stuff sometimes. Like I end up watching YouTube videos at 2 times speed because I don't have enough time to consume everything I want to watch. Like Andrew Schultz, his podcast is fire, and I always want it because he's like somebody I look up to because the way he can just like riff and say
fragrant
stuff.
I love Andrew,
but I have to watch it at 2 times speed because I'm like I don't have time throughout the day to like watch everything that I need to watch. So I end up like looking at clips and stuff a lot of the time. Like those guys do some cool stuff. Like you got to give them credit. I know people that knew them just because of where I grew up, but they definitely have like the thing that like that little just spark when they make content that just works no matter what. And that's special. It
is. And in the fight world, we all know who they're connected with.
Yeah.
That's how I'm in this chair. Shout out to Dana, sneaking my way to the Apex with a cardboard sign. I was telling you that's how I got in. And then meeting John. I'll be at the fights this weekend. Steve will do it, I believe has another residence in Vegas, so I'd be super excited to meet him. Mm-hmm. Steve, if you're watching this, I'd love to have you on Fight Junkeez. I actually gave Dana White my info 2 years ago to give to you, and Dana's a busy man, so I'm going to ask Dana what happened in 48 hours. But Dana's looking ripped. I don't want to piss him off. Might beat me up.
Yeah, man, he's changed his Dana did the same thing. Like he found out some bad news and he just went, all right, fuck it, and they just got absolutely shredded and is like taking care of himself, strict diet and everything, no compromises.
10X, him and John.
He announced it here in this exact studio. He announced it.
Yeah. Shout out to Austin, my producer.
But yeah, Dana's an interesting guy in that sense where like he has the ability to do whatever he wants, and yet he does this thing that's stressful and keeps him busy nonstop. He could just sit on a beach if he wanted to.
Well, they say that about Donald Trump. Hate him or love him. I mean, if I was a billionaire, I'm not going into politics.
Oh, God,
I'm going to be playing golf every morning and chilling with my wife and daughters. That's it.
Dude, I can't. Like, that's the one thing, and I've brought this up a lot of times when I get the itch to go back to coaching is like, I actually get to like see my family. Like I'd see my girlfriend maybe like 10 times a year when I was coaching.
Damn.
And I'd like see my parents a little bit because I was like a few hours away. But like and John Orlando was constantly trying to get me to come out to Vegas. Like last time I came out, my girlfriend goes, "Don't let John Orlando convince you to move out to Vegas." And
he's a very convincing guy.
Yeah. John loved it when I told him that
has
story.
He smiled at you? Like, Jesus Christ.
But I just can't be away from my family like that. Like I'm 3 hours away right now and I don't like it when I'm where I live in Ontario. I just got to be near them. It's just one of those things for me that's just, I value that above a lot of other things. Is having that available to me. And it's a privilege though, because not everybody gets that, gets to have that life. So I feel like it's something like you gotta
You got to hold on tight.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, and it's 2023. You can live anywhere now and do this content. Yeah, would it be nice to be more localized to the the fight capital of the world?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But in October, the UFC is going out to Canada. Are you going to be involved in any of that?
So Vancouver is somewhere where my girlfriend wants to go. If she's okay with it being a work trip, maybe we get that going. But that's a cheap flight from where I'm living right now. So that's something that, like, I want to do. It's just with everything I'm doing, it's like, okay, what am I doing next week? And then trying to get that battle going and just step at a time. Because eventually everything's going to work out. But yeah, I wish there was an event in Toronto that's right in my breadbasket. I don't know why they chose Vancouver, to be honest. That's not the MMA capital of the world.
You should go.
The MMA capital of Canada, I should say.
Your girlfriend loves you. You should go. Take her.
Probably.
You never know. Even, just takes one day, one person, one handshake. I'd do it. I got to go back to that.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a transition. I've been a fan of fighting in the UFC and Dana specifically, the person he is, because I'm from the East Coast, for over 20 years. How the hell do you go from, hockey to not being like a YouTuber for hockey? And how did you go into the fighting world?
So I realized really quickly when I started doing this is a lot of guys pigeonhole themselves in one thing, and they just talk about one thing. And I go, like, I like a bunch of stuff, and sometimes I'm gonna have a really good video I could post about MMA, so I should do it. So right now on my channel, I talk a lot of hockey. I own part of a Austrian football team, so soccer for the Americans. So I'll talk about that sometimes. But
Austrian?
Yeah, Austrian in Austria.
Are you European too?
No, well, actually, technically I'm Ukrainian, but I was born in Canada, but I'm a quarter Ukrainian. And then it's just a mixture of stuff, and I'm just trying to build out a brand where, like, I can talk about whatever I want to. Because I think a lot of people pigeonhole themselves in that one thing. But I was always an MMA fan, man. Since like Spike TV, sitting at home, nothing to do, 12 years old, watching that stuff. It was, I was always into it. And I'm like, I just want to work my way in. And because of John Orlando.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend.
I've been able to work my way into that a little bit.
How old are you?
28.
Okay, you're still young.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this is the perfect time. I look at, like Austin and George and Travis, they're 23 to 26. And I'm like, I had a beeper in high school. Like, if I could have had content or the creative mind back then in like 2001 to start a freaking YouTube channel, but it didn't even exist. So you guys are in a great position right now. Better late than never. I'm here. Fight Junkeez. Follow us everywhere. It's the best freaking fight channel on earth. Sorry. I'm a little excited. So you're going to be here for 7 days. What is your path? Do you want to be like doing interviews? I've seen you obviously do a lot of content, but what do you enjoy the most? I'm an interview guy. I like sitting down and talking. I'm not really the Zoom we're going to do when we have to for fighters, but like, what is your goal? How do you see yourself?
I like just being able to like pop into Vegas when I can. It's like one of those things where like, this is like a 4-day city. Now I'm doing a 7-day trip, but I'm trying to leave enough time for things to work themselves out. But I really like doing the face-to-face interviews with people because you just build connections that way. Every time I've come down here, I've come back with a lot of value, just a lot of stuff, connections I've made, people have tried to help out, all that sort of stuff. But when you're doing a face-to-face interview and you're talking to somebody, you can get a lot more out of it. Guys get asked to do Zoom interviews all the time, nonstop, even by just absolute nobodies. They get DMs all the time. But if you're in person, you're at a studio like this, or you go and do a remote type of thing like that, it does a lot better because anybody can do something on Zoom, but not everybody can fly out here and be able to have the connections to talk to people. I think that content does a lot better long term. So it's just one of those things. Also, I needed to get out of Canada for a bit. Need a nice reset.
Yeah, no, it's good. You got to take a break.
Yeah.
I personally like being here. We came from the Bay Area for that exact reason. I have connections, obviously people we know, so I can have the fighters sit down. Tell me what do you think of the fight game lately? It's been a lot different than it used to be.
Yeah, like there's guys that I think are a little disingenuous with stuff, and they like really try and like have this character, and everyone's trying to be Chael Sonnen or Connor, and I don't think that necessarily works for some guys. So we've seen some pretty corny stuff with that type of stuff, and then some of the way guys have been treating each other, talking about stuff, bringing up religion, wives, and stuff like that. I'm not really down for all that type of stuff. But because of the access to social media and stuff, I think the fight game's changed a lot because a lot of guys can, have a podium to talk about stuff that they couldn't before. So you're seeing guys rise up a lot quicker. There's a lot to it, like Raul Rosas Jr. I don't know if he would have necessarily had the same hype without, social media and stuff like that.
Absolutely not.
So the market's definitely
No
changed.
slight on him. It's just, he wouldn't have. Nobody would have known who he was.
Yeah. So I think that aspect changed the game quite a bit, but I don't like the disingenuous stuff where guys are like saying like, oh, if I see this guy, I'm going to kill him. Like, you're not going to kill him.
Well, look what happened last weekend. Nate Diaz was attacked viciously.
He's now in jail.
Yeah.
He turned himself in. Yeah. Well, he's with his attorney. I'm sure he'll be out by lunch. But I'm a Nate fan, but he was attacked viciously by... Do you know that guy that he choked out? Did you know that guy was an MMA fighter too?
I saw a picture. He's like a TikToker or something. The second I saw them talking about who he was, I go, I don't want to know anything about this. I don't want to know that guy. I'm done with it. This was clearly set up. He was trying to do something.
Yeah, he's Logan Paul's lookalike.
Yeah.
And he's hung out with Logan and them. And he definitely tried to attack him. But originally, a lot of people are like, you're a pro fighter, but why are you hurting this guy? Granted, the guy was the aggressor. But I just saw today, he's like 13-6.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. Like, I don't like when people are trying to like chase clout and stuff like that. And that's what that situation was. I don't blame like Nate for doing that. Also, it's Nate Diaz. He's one of the guys that's actually about it. There's a lot of guys that say stuff.
Him and Masvidal are going to hit you.
Yeah, exactly. So like, what are we doing here? He also shouldn't be putting himself in those situations. And I've heard stuff. He's a really nice, chill guy, but there's a switch to be flipped. So I think in some ways, like he shouldn't be getting into those situations for himself, but at the same time too,
don't run up on him.
don't do that thing. Like, what are you doing? It's like if I see Francis, I'm not going to trip Francis. He's going to throw me across the room. You know what's going to happen.
Could you imagine?
Oh, dude, there's a lack of consequences because of social media, and people think that you can just talk shit to people, and then there's no consequences of any of it.
There's no respect, man.
No, and that's part of the reason with the content I do. Like, if a fighter ever was mad at something I had to say, feel free on site. If you're mad at me, I don't care. It's fair. But I'm not doing my job right if a fighter wants to drop me like that. I don't think I'm doing my job right, or they're an idiot. But I just try and give them that respect, because at the end of the day, I can't fight them. I can't beat them up. I could never do what they're going to do. So talking shit to them, not going to happen on my side. I try and keep things respectful enough. But if somebody acts like a complete idiot, I think it's a bit of fair game. But I'm never going to harp on somebody. And you see some of these other like reporters in MMA, they'll like roast a guy on their show, and then the next week they see the guy in person and they're doing an interview. I'm not about that. That's part of the reason why I do interviews now, is I'm just trying to like, I saw a lot of stuff I didn't like, and it was hard for me to find stuff that I wanted to watch. So I go, well, maybe there's a market for people talking to fighters the way I do.
I called out the Schmo. I'm doing it again, Schmo. I'm a big fan of the Schmo. Just how he came out of nowhere, and I'm trying to like, in a way, emulate what he's doing. Yeah. But I think it would be dope if me and the Schmo got in there and punch each other in the face, to host the shows. And I wouldn't say I'm a journalist, but I guess so, in a way.
I don't think journalism is dead. I don't think it's a real thing. Like, Ariel Helwani is technically a journalist, but I could argue that he's also a sports personality now. He's got a show where he shares a lot of his opinions that aren't necessarily based on fact. They're just his opinions on things.
True.
That's not really necessarily journalism, but he's also a journalist. So, like, that aspect of things, I think, is part of the reason why there's some like conflict with that stuff, where like people are kind of like trying to be entertaining on their show, but then they also have to report the news. And I think those things conflict with each other a fair amount. Yeah,
it's too much. You gotta just be yourself.
Yeah.
When you try too much. I'm getting a little older. Like I don't have time for any of that crap.
Yeah, I just don't care anymore. Like, there's people in my life that I've had to deal with who like I'll actively just like avoid. I won't want to talk to them. If we're at an event, I'll like just try not to talk to them, because I just don't care about like whatever they're going to bring up. It's just going to be a bunch of silly nonsense. And I'm not about that. Like, I'm about being around with people who are going to support me, and not just try and like start drama for no reason and stir stuff up just because like they're dealing with whatever in personal battle they got going on. Like, it's just one of those things. I'm just so against all the nonsense. I like being with chill people who are nice, normal, not trying to start shit, but at the same time too, are going to have your back if something bad happens.
Well, speaking of nonsense, I want to talk about one of the most prolific nonsense shit talkers, the cringe, Triple C himself, bend the knee, Henry Cejudo. He's going to be fighting next week. We're going to get into, after this, Ricky Simone and Song Yadong. They're the main event this Saturday at the UFC Apex. They were the co-main event for the Blades fight last week, but they pushed it back because Moicano wants money, got injured, and he's not going to be the headline. But we'll get into that. That card if you don't really dive into UFC, you might not know too many of the fighters on that roster. What do you think of Henry and Aljo? How do you think that's going to go?
I think it's a pretty good matchup. I think this fight will probably be competitive. They both got pretty extensive wrestling. Obviously, Henry's a little bit more decorated in that sense, but I think you could see this fight having a really bad first round, a slow first round, and I think this will be a decision fight. I think you'll see the guys go back and forth a lot. I don't think you'll see anybody knock each other out, but I think this is going to be a very competitive matchup between two guys who are the best in the world. I think you're going to see a lot when you have two guys who have such skill, and especially in the same area. It just kind of like ends up being like a bit of a chess game rather than
like Colby and Usman. They canceled each other out.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at.
Really?
I like both the fighters. Like I like Aljo, I like Henry. Got a lot of respect for Cejudo. I mean, like he's accomplished more than anybody else has. So
25 minutes though, really.
I think there's gonna be a 25-minute fight. I think there's just gonna be a chess game.
I think it's either gonna be submission or knockout by the third. Look, Aljo got a lot of slack for a lot of things. But that dude is a savage now.
Yep.
Little cringy too. So it's kind of cool that both these dudes are going to fight each other. But that dude, man, the backpack, like once he grabs you, that's it. And I think that he's just, I think Henry's striking is definitely a little more dangerous than Aljo. But 25 minutes, I didn't think about that. I'm always thinking about like how the finish, it could be.
Yeah, it just when you have guys that have similar skill sets, it just tends to play out that way. Like you said, Usman versus Colby. Again, these guys, the pace will be a little different because they can go quicker. So I think you'll see a lot more action as opposed to the Usman fights there. But I really like this fight. I think it's a good matchup, and people will kind of try and trash on either guy, but I mean, best in the world, both of them. It's going to be an absolute war. And
John thinks Aljo for sure, and he said that Henry has been out 3 years, and he doesn't put him in the same category as like a John Jones, or somebody that can be out for 3 years and come back and still be at the highest elite level. I don't know. I don't know. I think I said Henry, but the length, Aljo's he's been so shredded lately, like consistently after he had his neck surgery about 18 months ago. And Henry still looks like he's trying to get back to that. So, I mean, that's got to play a big part in conditioning. But then again, you see Henry is with Mighty Mouse, one of the GOATs, and they're training every day. So I don't know. I have no idea. I think fight IQ, without a doubt, Henry. Younger, more athletic, a little bit more strength, and been in there, Aljo.
Yeah, one thing I like to do in these fights too is I will wait till the weigh-in, because sometimes you can see, looking at a guy's eyes or his cheekbones and stuff like that, really what you're going to be able to expect in the fight, especially when a guy's been off for a while and then now he's coming back. So if you see him really gaunt in the face, Henry, you could extrapolate, maybe there could be some concerns, but he's been such a pro for so long, cutting weight like an absolute expert for so long. I don't foresee that being a factor in this, but with other fights, that's one thing I will look at is the weigh-in and just see, especially when you have guys who are changing weight classes and stuff like that, or they've been off for a while. You can see some guys absolutely just destroyed in the face, and I go, that guy's going to have a hard time rehydrating, a little bit more likely he can get knocked out.
But
yeah. Subjective sometimes, though.
Chandler, Connor.
Oh, God.
I got to ask you about that.
Michael Chandler paid my rent one time because he absolutely torched his first fight in the UFC. Huge underdog. I got him at like plus 250. That was insane. Michael Chandler plus 250 UFC debut? Nah. So I had that bet. So I don't like betting against Chandler. I think Michael Chandler could be the best in his division all time. But
if he's strategic, right?
Yeah, he throws the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
I think he could be the greatest of all time. But he tries to put on a show for the fans. And I respect him for doing that. But, man.
I mean, it's got him to the payday. You could look at it exactly how you're saying it. Or, Austin, because I know he's big in the fight too. You could also say that Michael Chandler is going to make more money in the Conor fight than he ever would have the rest of his career as a champ or whatever the case is. So, but yeah, he's a complete savage.
Do we know what weight class that fight's going to be at
170.
Yet? 170? So we have Chandler 170, a lot more power, less cutting weight. That's an interesting fight to see. I don't want to necessarily give a pick on that because like either guy can finish it pretty quick.
Yeah.
So it's almost like looking at a heavyweight fight with that one.
I think it's going to be the main event in MSG. over Stipe Jones. But I don't know if they'd put both of them on the same card. I mean, they might, but two fights of that caliber should be separate, you'd think, as their own individual headline. So who are you going to go with? Who do you think?
I don't bet against Chandler because, like I said, he paid my rent one time because that I loaded up as one of the biggest bets I ever made when he had his UFC debut. So I don't want to pick, honestly, with that one, but I'll be rooting for Chandler.
I think you're smart not to pick.
Yeah.
It's literally whoever grabs it's going to be over quick. I do not, my personal opinion, and I love Michael Chandler, big fan. We're both born in 86. I think he does get hit a lot.
Yep.
And Conor is very strategic with his punching, his timing, his striking is phenomenal. But if it goes past the third round, I'm going to give it to Chandler.
Yep. You can take him down. That's the thing with Chandler is he tries to put on the show sometimes instead of doing the strategic move. Conor's takedown defense, it's not awful. People try and really give him trouble for that.
He did the best against Khabib besides Raging Al.
Yeah. So I don't know how Chandler's going to approach the fight. That's another factor that plays into this one too.
Austin, what do you think?
On the Conor fight?
Conor versus Chandler.
That's like me picking between Conor and Cowboy. I'm not going to. So I like both of them.
Yeah.
It's a pick 'em.
Okay.
If it goes the distance, then Conor by broken ankle.
Oh my God.
This guy.
To himself. If it's in the first round, it's going to be Chandler knocks himself out. That's how I see it. I legit think it's just going to be a pick 'em.
Yeah. That whole division. Right next to you, Dustin, the Diamond Poirier at Lafayette, Louisiana. He's so big. I was stationed in Louisiana for a long time, and I was with the Department of Defense work in Louisiana. Everybody loves him. Him and Josh Quayhagen. Shout out to Josh Quayhagen. I don't know if he's still fighting anymore. He might be fighting for the second time Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
In Abu Dhabi, I think, under maybe the co-main event for the champ. I don't know. Who do you got on that?
That's a tough one. Both are really different fighters than they were when they first fought. So I would.
Yeah, they're more similar now, actually.
Yeah, they are. Justin's power always makes it hard to bet against him, but Dustin's got really good jiu-jitsu. So depending on how the fight goes, you could see things happen. I'd probably say Gaethje to win that fight, but again, it's a similar situation as the last fight we talked about, where that fight can end really fast, depending on depending on how guys want to fight. If they want to put on a show, it makes it much harder to pick. But if the guys play to their strong suit, you could maybe lean to one side. But yeah, it's just, these guys are realizing they can make more money if they just try and put on the show. They're not necessarily as concerned about winning, and I respect them for doing that. They're just trying to make sure that their kids and grandkids are taken care of. So
I'm kind of. I love everybody. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
The 155 division. It's been the same people. What do you think about that? Do you watch any PFL or One Championship?
So I probably watch every single Bellator event if I'm going to be honest with you.
Really?
In Canada, it just streams on YouTube. So I'll be sitting there. I can just throw the fights on right away. And I interview a lot of Bellator guys too because they're just the easiest to get an interview with. I just DM these guys and they're always really hyped to do it.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
No, I think they just realize that they just need to work on getting a name for themselves. And the UFC is obviously the bigger organization, but these guys are smart enough to realize if I just try and force my name out there, talk more, do more stuff, I can build up just the same as I can in the UFC.
Yeah.
So I'll watch that. I like the PFL stuff. They're doing some interesting stuff with the live betting lines just right on the screen. They're also doing the AI judging is kind of neat as well. Good broadcast crew. Productions is nice.
You should try to go tomorrow. Isn't there a PFL?
I'm not sure.
Isn't it every Friday? There's a tournament in Vegas right now. I'll find out.
I think the PFL. I thought I looked it up.
One of the champs, she follows me. I'll shoot her a DM and see what.
I think they had their last event in Vegas last week. No,
it could have been. It could be over.
And Bellator was in Hawaii last week for 2 events. Shout out to Mads Burnell. Awesome fight. He won. He's one of the first interviews I ever did. And then, I like watching the Bellator events. They're really exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on. The broadcast is very well done. And there's been maybe the last 2 Bellator events I watched have been better than some of the UFC fight nights.
Yeah.
And there's some great Patchy Mix, unfucking believable last week. winning that $1 million tournament.
Yeah. With knockout.
Yeah, dude, flying.
Well, I ask you that because the owner of One Championship said he could put his champ up against the UFC champ any day. Would you ever want to see that happen? And do you think it would match up well?
I would want to see it because that's the type of stuff I like. I like when things get changed up like that. But I don't think One Championship necessarily has that ability.
The caliber.
Yeah. Bellator, right now, you could very much argue that Patchy Mix could win the UFC championship if he was able to fight. And there's some other guys there that they have kicking around. Like, look at Gegard left when he was like really close to a title shot in the UFC and went to Bellator. So, Roy McDonald was there for a long time. He was one of the best ever. I think Bellator stacks up.
He's from Canada. You had to say the best ever.
I know. I think Bellator would stack up pretty well if you put the UFC. I think you'd have some exciting fights happen. And just look at Chandler. He wasn't the top guy in Bellator when he left. He came to the UFC and he's one of the top guys. So you can argue some stuff with that.
Eddie Alvarez too.
Yeah, and there's guys that have tried to do like the hop over from Bellator and it just hasn't worked to the UFC. So I would like to see it to learn and get an idea of like really how competitive it is. But I look at Bellator pretty close to the UFC, just with less attention.
Since we're on this organization hopping right now, do you watch any of the bare knuckle fights? Because I'm going to throw this belt at Austin. Mike Perry, Rockhold. I'm so still. I won't say I snuck in, but I kind of snuck into the Palms Casino and went to the media, the press conference.
Yep.
I have not been this excited ever for a bare knuckle.
I watched when Paulie fought Artem. I watched that one. I don't watch a lot of the BKFC stuff, to be honest with you.
Austin, do you love it too, right? Do you watch bare knuckle? No?
UFC is the only promotion that matters. Let's be real here.
Come on.
I think it's funny that
He's a
Luke
savage.
Rockhold is like drilling kicks right now because that's going to go real well for him in bare knuckle right now.
You know what? I don't like to criticize Luke at all.
No, I love
Austin
Luke.
will put your fire out. He doesn't care what you
I'm mad at Luke because he killed my parlay his last fight against Paulo Costa. That should have been an easy fight. Paulo Costa is literal dog water.
Oh man, dude, I like both
It's that
those guys.
secret
me
juice.
too. So
It's that
you're
secret juice.
gonna tune in.
I want to see that fight. I think it's interesting. Luke Rockhold's last fight in the UFC was one of the best fights in UFC history. I love that fight. And he said he was disappointed after, and I commented on his post. I'm like, that's one of the best fights ever. Him to go fight in bare knuckle. I know he's getting paid, so like that's why he's doing it. I don't have a ton of interest in it. I have a funny bare knuckle story I'll tell one day, but it's just one of those things. They have some interesting stuff that happens in that promotion. The highlights are cool, but it's the same thing as Slap Fight. I'm not going to watch the episode of Slap Fight. I'll watch the highlights though.
What? Power Slap is great. It's not called Slap.
No, he said he's more of a 5 second, 7 second guy. You want to watch him get slapped.
Yeah, I'll watch the slap and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But like, because of watching hockey, football, MMA, and all the stuff, it's so hard to keep up on everything. So I just try and make sure that I know what's going on. So yeah, BKFC is not really my thing. Then also, I mean, come on, if it lines up against the UFC on a Saturday, you know what everyone's picking.
Yeah. This weekend, Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone. That's an intriguing fight.
Yep.
And a bantamweight division stacked. How do you think that's going to plan out?
I'm really not too sure on that one either. Like, both guys are really competitive. I thought, ask me that question. That's a question. That's a Friday question almost. Right? Like, you see the guys weigh in, and I'm really thinking about it. Depending on what the line looks like too. I've been doing a lot of line shopping recently just to try and like improve the way I'm betting because John smoked me 8-0 on UFC picks. We were betting against each other, and I've been so bad at picking the UFC.
Yeah.
Depending on what the line is, you could make a judgment on who you want to bet on that one. But yeah, it's going to be a tough call. It's a good main event though. Like, I think people are not giving this card enough hype, but good main event. But the fight I want to talk about, the Russian Ronda is making her UFC debut against Stephanie Egger. This is the best fight on the entire card, bar none. I cannot wait to see this fight.
Go into it.
I'm
going to grab us water. You want a water?
Yes, water.
I'll be right back. Yeah, go into it, please.
The Russian Ronda is making her debut, Irene. And it's going to be one of the best fights in the entire card. 2 elite grapplers. I cannot wait to see this one. Haley Cowan's also fighting too. I mean, these are really early fights, but they're some of the best fights on the entire card. But I cannot wait to see the Russian Ronda's debut. Do you even know who I'm talking about, Austin?
No clue. I didn't even know Song Yadong was even on this card until I had to make the live for today.
That's so funny, dude. It's just one of those things. It's going to be one of those sneaky ones, but you'll see it's going to be the best display of grappling in UFC history. And you get me a water just as I start fumbling on all of my words because my throat's dry.
We've already seen the best display, though. We have Khamzat. What do you mean? We have Bilal Muhammad versus Wonderboy Thompson
against another wrestler.
Yeah, against another wrestler. So like when you're watching Khamzat fight, it's just like, hey, I'm going to dominate this person. These two girls both have fantastic resumes with grappling. I cannot wait to see this. The Russian Ronda fought in Bellator for a period of time, and then she got released in order to go to the UFC. And I think this happened in like the fall sometime. And when I saw that happen, I was so excited to see this one. But nobody's talking about it. I'm like, this is the best fight on the entire card, bar none. I cannot wait to see that one.
What are you like into the grappling, the wrestling? Do you have any like background in that? Why does that excite you so much?
No, I just like when I think there's a lot of underreporting on some of the UFC fighters, and like there's just really good competitive fighters that don't get enough hype. And so when I was doing videos in my last job, we were looking at like trying to just talk about these fighters who don't get enough attention, and the Russian Ronda is one of them. I don't want to butcher her last name, that's why I'm not saying it.
Gotcha.
But people always butcher my last name growing up, and I just hate that. But I just don't think the fights get enough attention. I think there's a lot of really great women's fights that people just don't talk about enough.
I'm going to bring one up now since we're on it when you're done. As soon as you're done.
Yeah, you're good. I got to get this cord stuff.
Pena.
Oh, God.
Pena versus Amanda Nunes 3. I'm super stoked. I love them both, but I just, the dog that Pena has.
Yep.
I am a fan.
Oh, me too, man.
When somebody says you can't do something and you go out there and you shock the entire... The last time I really went, oh shit, like that was when Cyborg got knocked out by Amanda.
Oh, yeah.
I literally ran around an entire building. It was like an Applebee's or something. I was in Houston downtown. I lost my mind from that knockout.
Don't forget the
same thing happened.
Don't forget the second fight though. Amanda proved that like that was kind of a fluke.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I just think
Amanda said she was sick, and I believe it because Amanda put on almost a clinic.
my wife, I'm choking over here. My wife said the same thing because she had COVID. And I told my wife, well, she has people around her that love her and that her, in this for her to win it. So if she wasn't ready, she wouldn't have got in there. So I think it might be bullshit. But then again, people fight with torn ACLs and all kinds of crap.
And Pena did it wasn't a Khamzat fight in the second round, in the second time. Like Pena did do a little bit of piecing up, like maybe once every other round.
But she's a dog, bro. There's a difference between athletes and fighters.
No, I know. We've talked about... Who did we just say was like...
I was talking to Eric Nixick about that.
Right, but we said that there's like somebody who's both.
Chandler?
Maybe.
So how do you think that's going to go?
I'm happy to see this fight. And what's funny, I think it was on MMA Fighting's Instagram. I commented like, why are people complaining about this fight? Like, I can't wait to see this one. This is a trilogy. It's supposed to happen. And I'm just so excited to see this one. These two girls have basically dominated each other one fight to the other. You had to see a rematch. There has to be a third fight. There's just no way of getting around it. I like Pena, to be honest with you. I think she learned a lot. And also, she was dangerous off her back. It wasn't like she wasn't doing anything when she was getting, she was in guard. She was moving around. Like, Nunez made some comments about how she was kind of playing with her food and really wanted to like make a point that she could dominate this
bullshit.
Girl. No one.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not bullshit. But if I'm in there and belt's on the line, I'm going to end that shit as fast as I can.
I've never fought. One of the reasons why I don't like to talk shit about fighters is because I've never fought. I haven't been in there. I haven't done what they've done. I haven't cut weight. But I would think that you'd want to try and get the finish if it was available. And Pena was threatening with some submissions. Now, there was a lot of blood in that fight too. Made it a little harder. They got a little slippery. There was a fair amount of sweat. I'd like to see what Pena does in this next fight. It's a good time to get that third fight. And I'm the guy that said when Islam and Volk fought, I go, I want to see it again. Can we see that one again? Because when you had the best two fighters fight each other in the division, you want to see it more than once.
Who'd you think won that fight?
I think that Islam won 3 rounds, but what I will say is Volk showed himself a lot in that fight. He learned stuff about himself, and Volk is probably, in my opinion, because he hasn't tested positive for steroids, he's the GOAT. I don't care about fighting in 2 divisions, all this other stuff that's happened. He's clean. He dominates everybody. And his fighting career, a lot different than other guys.
Yeah. That's who we were talking. That going back to it. That's the guy who is an athlete and has that dog in him.
He's a savage.
Yeah,
He's
he
funny,
won
too.
that fight. There should if you have to have your team hold you up at the end of the fight, and the other dude's like, I could go 3 more rounds.
That's a good point. A 6th round. What happens?
Yeah, but I think that we had the small guy bias. A lot of us. I know for me, anything that Alex did was more significant than, the
Because he
champ,
should
so.
have been a weight bully. Let's be real. Like when I was watching, because I worked that fight here at the studio. When we were watching that fight, they straight up were like, Islam should be weight bullying him.
Yeah.
Because he
Islam's
should
a
be.
big boy. He's like my size.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact that Volk was still like dropping him.
He's fighting, dude.
And I think genetics play into a lot of Volk's success, though, is he
His
has
legs.
the exact body type for it. He's like the specimen. He's like when you look
He's like
at
the DC in heavyweight.
Yeah,
He's got that
exactly.
short, compact strength.
Yeah, and the velocity of his punches, the power he can build up, and it's all quick at the same time. But he also played a different sport. I think that helps a lot of guys out. Wayne Gretzky would talk about the second hockey season was over, hockey equipment was put away, and he's ready to play baseball and lacrosse.
Yeah.
I think that impacts a lot. I think that allows guys to have some success. And you look at fighters mentally and what they can deal with stress. If you're playing a sport, like say hockey, or he played Aussie rules football, you have a lot of ups and downs every single week because you're constantly competing. I think that helps a lot too. And he's also been in a team environment. I think that helps with the people he works with and the environment that he set up, the way his coaches interact with people and everything like that. I'm a big fan of him. Also, I like him too. He'll talk a little bit of trash, but relatively speaking, he's a decent role model too. I would love hypothetical fights. Weight classes don't matter. Volk versus GSP would be so interesting to see.
Oh, yeah. I'd always wanted Khabib versus GSP.
Just so I could watch Khabib lose.
Oh God! Yeah.
I have to, but we only got like 5 minutes left, but I want to ask about the 195-pound division.
Yep.
It's kind of like Izzy, the champ. He's so far ahead. He's beat everybody in the top 5. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. I could honestly, Hamzat, let him do it.
Yeah, I don't know how that plays out. I think that 185 is where he has to fight at. The 170 situation, even though he said he could make the weight, sometimes you have to protect the fighter for themselves.
He was going to die. Like, that dude,
Yeah,
he's got to walk around at 220.
he's big. So I don't like seeing that because I don't want to see someone die. And even though you think you know what's best for yourself, sometimes you don't. And I think that's the situation there. So I think he has to fight at 185 for his own health and safety.
He is. Isn't he going to fight Paul?
That's what it sounds like. There's been a lot of bouncing and back and forth with him. No, I'm at 170. No, 185. No, I'm not going to fight.
I don't think
Costa.
Dana's going to let him. You missed by 8 pounds. Sorry, kid.
Yeah.
You're going up a weight class, or you're not going to fight.
So I don't know how the 185-pound division plays out. I wanted to see another fight between Alex and Izzy because I go, this is so entertaining.
The 4th?
Yeah, I'd watch that fight every weekend.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I think it's one of those situations where it's a 5
Yeah, it's 50-50
every time. But that was so exciting, the leg kicks, and then just the whole strategy of the entire thing.
But I think any other 85er in the top 5 beats Piera because I think Izzy's more well-rounded with his wrestling and his takedown defense.
I think Whitaker would give him some problems. I think there's some stuff there, but I just like the fights. I want to see the most exciting, but also the best versus the best. And I don't like the nonsense in between. I understand. I guess Alex really actually does have to move up to 205 because I watched him weigh in and I'm like,
Bro, that guy
his cheeks were sinking in.
Izzy's a big boy.
Yeah.
And when Alex stood next to him, there was a significant size difference.
Head difference. Look how big Alex's head is alone.
Poatan. He's got these.
But I love watching him fight. I have so much respect for those two guys. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, it's exciting. UFC's got a lot going on. This summer is going to be stacked. Next month, my birthday month. Let's go.
Me too. 29th of May.
On May 2nd. Awesome. Well, I got to give a shout out to Ode Osborne, the Jamaican sensation.
Yes.
My brother. I miss him. He's my guy. We have a blast doing this show. So, Ode, we'll see you soon.
I mean, people can mistake me for Ode all the time. So,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Easily.
I'm glad, you know, 21 last thing. I'm glad Ode isn't here because I said to them, the next time you see me, I'll be 170. And I'm not 170 right now. So that worked out that he's moving and is not going to be here this time. But I love that guy.
No, he's such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Where can we find you?
At The Other Babs on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all that fun stuff. Lots of stuff going on. I talk about a bunch of different stuff, and I, like I said, I like just to have a fun, authentic time. You get to see some interesting insights from my hockey career because where I coached was exactly like the movie Slapshot.
Really?
Oh, 100%. I can't tell 90% of my stories.
Are you one of the kids from the Mighty Ducks? You're too young for that, right?
Nah, I'm way too young. I never watched those movies.
Well, I appreciate you coming in.
No
I wish
worries,
you
dude.
all of the success in the world.
You too, buddy.
We'll continue to build a relationship, and we'll both get to the top of that mountain.
Yep, 100%.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Fight Junkeez, baby. Follow all the Junkeez brands. I love you. I'm out.